3, 2, 1. During the Fourth War of the Sun, a small dog named Doggy experienced an irreparable trauma. His mother was brutally murdered, and his 8 brothers, still puppies, were kidnapped by a mysterious man. To save them, Doggy fought bravely against the terrible killer, but all of his efforts were in vain, and he was left for dead. What nobody imagined was that a technological vulture scavenging the region for corpses would be the one to rescue the dying dog from death's scythe. Now, Doggy has become Samurai Doggy, and his only goal is to quench his thirst for revenge. What's going on, everyone? It's Ash on Comics. This is today's comic, Samurai Doggy. This really took me by surprise. I'm just going to say it right now. This is one of the most exciting breaths of fresh air in comics I have read since Ultra Mega, which, please, Ultra Mega, come back. I'm waiting for you. I adore this comic. You ever sometimes just pick something up on a gut hunch? No one's recommended it to you. You don't know the creators. It's not a character or something that you've read before that you love or something. It's just something about the cover strikes you. And this may not even be a comic. It might be a movie. It might be a book that you read, something. And you're just like, I'm just something. The back of your head is telling you, try this out. And you do. And then it turns out to be something you just absolutely love. That is, for me, this comic, Samurai Doggy. And I admit, it's got a silly name. The title, I like it because I feel like it's almost intentionally silly. And when I look at this cover and I hear the premise and stuff, it's absolutely, like, it knows that it's absurd. And one of the things I adore about this comic is that it kind of knows what it is. This is created by Chris Tex and an artist, Santos. I did a little research on them, just a touch, and they're 2 Brazilian guys. I got to watch a video. Chris Tex did a video talking about the things that he loves, and one of the things he loves is one of my favorite things, and that's Hayao Miyazaki. If you don't know who that is, you need to look into. He's most famous for a film called Spirited Away. One of his early films was Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, which is also a manga. It's the only manga that he's ever done. And he is doing a short film in tribute, just out of love. He's making no money because he can. He's got no license to do it. But he's doing it as a pure passion, love project. It looks gorgeous. It's computer animated. And when I saw this, after reading the comic, I was looking into and watched the video. I was like, this is why I think he resonates so well with me. I feel like his creative mind is so much similar to my own. He likes a lot of things that I like, and so his stories speak to me in a subconscious way. This is not going to be a book for everyone, but I implore you, if anything that I say about this book today, it all seems halfway interesting, try this out. I always like to recommend to people to step out of their comfort zone, if you will. It's easy to stick with the things we love. Maybe you're just like, you grew up reading Marvel, right? And you're just like, I just read my Marvel books. And I was that way a long time ago. And, you just, these are the things you like. You know what you like, and you just stick with it. And I'm not saying abandon the things that you like by any means. Just keep loving those. But every so often, push the envelope a little bit. Reach out and say, hey, is there more than the things that I already love that I can also try? Because sometimes you never know what's going to hit you. Now, this book even for me, when I opened up the first page here, I was like, oh, this is a little bit too kind of weird to me. It's very cartoony art style, puppies nursing from a mother. But listen to the contrasting tone of the narration versus the visuals. Many years ago, during the Fourth War of the Sun, my mother was blessed with the birth of 9 siblings, 9 small miracles for the age. But something terrible happened. My mother was murdered. Grrr. Flap. In that moment, I was furious. I could feel my mother's pain. Grrr. I had to defend her. Then I saw the face that would haunt my dreams for the rest of my life. With the same knife he used to kill my mother, he took away one of my eyes. That was his first mistake. He should have taken both. Toss. Blam! Left for dead. All of my brothers were taken away, and I couldn't do anything. We see a vulture descend from the sky. It's a robotic vulture pecking at the dead body, but it's not quite dead. Chomp! I could never have imagined being saved by a robot vulture. I was supposed to be his delicious lunch, but something changed his mind. His name was Ray. Cut to 20 years later. Now, the beginning pages that I just showed you are very, very cartoon style, very kind of almost like Western animation storyboards that reminded me of. And I'll be honest, at first, it wasn't really knocking my socks off. But what my point here was to show you was just sort of the contrast of that style versus the tone. I last saw this on, oh man, what was the name of that comic? It's on the tip of my tongue, where it was about the dogs and then the murder mystery, and it was done with like a kind of Disney style little puppies. Man, it's on the tip of my tongue. I should have done research ahead of time, but I just thought about it. Anyways, you guys know what I'm talking about. It was real popular. They're still making new books. Oh, geez. Anyways, it kind of is that contrast, which I found interesting. And this book does a similar thing. And so, I'd paid for the book, so I'm along for the ride. I'm invested, and I want to know more. And I get to this page, and I'm like, ooh. Now, I'm a big fan of many different genres and tropes. And one of those is samurai. I'm a huge fan of things feudal Japan. I also love dogs. I'm a dog lover. So those are probably two of the subconscious things that got me to pick up this book. I'm a big fan of like dystopian future, cyberpunk, wasteland. All these things are in this book. So those are all clicking. It's firing my imagination. I'm also a fan of the medium of comics. And by that, what I mean is that comics are a visual medium when it comes to storytelling. This is something that is, I hate to say it, it's lost on a lot of people. It could be lost on you, and you may not even know it. You may be shaking your head at me, and I'm not trying to indict anyone, but the modern industry has really taught people, new fans that have kind of come in, say, the last 10, 20 years, that this is a story-driven medium, and the pictures are just there to help you along. Kind of the way, like, old storybooks were for little kids. I don't know how much they make those anymore, but when I was a kid, I'd pick up, you get storybooks of your favorite movies or whatever, and it'd be mostly prose, but they would be inserting pictures to help along because kids don't read very well, and pictures help keep their attention, help improve reading comprehension. Comics have been the same way. In fact, comics started off being much that same way, but as they evolved as a medium and you started getting more and more talent into the industry, more talent evolving in the industry, because, as longer things go on, the people in that field get better at what they're doing. They find new ways to do it. Anyways, my point is, art, the art in the storytelling is the primary reason to have a comic. If you just want a good story, you should go buy a novel. Really, you should get into literature and books. Comics are not the vessel that's most effective at doing that without the visuals. Samurai Doggy is absolutely a visually driven book, and you're saying, well, actually, you're just talking about how the art's kind of cartoony and it's muddy and stuff, but it tightens up. As you're going to see as I flip through these pages, it never loses that cartoony style, but it definitely improves. The coloring really enhances the book. The lines get tighter, better inking, and for me, what I love about this is the sequential art, the layouts that not a lot of people tend to care about. But I think once you start coming to appreciate storyboard layouts and sequential art and how that they can tell the story through that process, they'll become a big deal to you as well. I mean, when I first got into comics, and I think when most people first get into comics, what they like about art is the picture appealing to look at. And I call that like pinup art. Like you just want to look at it because you just think the illustration, somehow it looks cool to you. And you just like staring at it. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I want that too. It took me many years. And fortunately I had, a stepfather growing up who was an artist and kind of educated me along the way about the process of sequential art and why it was important and how it could be done well and how it affects the story. And as my eye became more trained to understand it, it started mattering a lot more to me. And as it mattered more, I started knowing it was like a snowball. Anyways, everyone is their own person. You're going to like things the way you like. But always, I recommend always try challenging yourself. Always think, if this is appealing to me, why is it appealing to me? And if it's not appealing to me, why is it not? And what could make it appeal more? Does someone else like it? Why do they like it, but I don't? Maybe listening to their perspective will help open my eyes to something I didn't see before. And this is just me projecting. This is how I have come to like things that I like. And this is why I do the videos that I do. Another thing about this book that's so appealing to me is the environment illustration. When you're going to do a book that's a fantasy book, and this is a fantasy book for sure, right? You're in an alien world that exists only in the imagination. It's not grounded in any sort of science or anything like that. It's not based in reality in any stretch of the imagination, although it takes traits of our things that we know in reality. Here you can see buildings that have architectural styles that are based in things we recognize. But the environment art helps get our imagination into this world. And a lot of lesser artists may not do this. They don't understand the importance. I mean, look at the character on this main frame here. Samurai Doggy is way down here at the bottom. And the colorist, so expertly colors him in bright red as a stark contrast. So your eye can pick him out super easily. But when you see the whole big picture, he's really not the focal point at all. The focal point is the scenery. This world starts captivating your imagination, at least for me. And a lot of comic books, they might not even bother drawing a background. A lot of times, pay attention to how many books you read where the artist will just draw the figures and then there's just a blank kind of color background or just like really rough kind of sketch of shapes and stuff. You don't know. And you're just focused on the characters. And sometimes that's important. Sometimes you should be doing that. But here, in these frames you're looking at, the point is you're supposed to be looking at the world that Samurai Doggy inhabits. Right? That's what's the point, is to immerse you in this. And we're going to see him traveling around. There's not a lot of text. There's no narration. And when you read this book, like any book that's very art-driven, take your time. Reading a comic book is like listening to music, right? Music has a certain beats per minute. It's not meant to be fast-forwarded or slowed down. It's meant to be at that same beats per minute and from start to finish, right? You don't go, I'm just going to listen to this at 2 times speed and get through the song faster. Well, you can do that, but you're going to lose what the artist kind of intended you to appreciate. And the same thing with comics. And paneling, what I often recommend, and typically it's not a science, it's not a rule, but when you read a comic book, the size of the panel often clues you into the length of time for that particular, what I'll call, beat. Smaller panels through faster, right? Bigger panels, longer pause. And use that as kind of a guide for yourself when you're not sure. But the artist, if they're doing their job right, should be having designing these each sequential panel to play out like a movie. If like a storyboard, that's how you make a movie out, is each one is a certain amount of time, and you want to linger on it so that it plays out. You get what I'm saying. I just love this. They take their time in letting me get into this world, and this book is all the better for it. I went back and reread the book just before doing the review so I could be fresher in my memory, and I'm getting old and I don't recall details like I used to, as you can be very well aware. I can't even remember the name of that book. That's driving me nuts, the dogs and the murder one. Anyways, I just absolutely love this world. I'm so back into it. Rereading it made me fall in love with the book all over. And actually, I didn't even really fall in love with it the first time. I think the first time I didn't know what to expect. So by the time I was over, I was like, oh, that was cool. When I reread it, it sort of saturated. It sort of congealed and coalesced and made me think, oh, I really do dig this. And I went back and tried to research the creators, to figure out what more have they done that I can be aware of, that I want to dive into these guys more. It's great. It's a great feeling and a great experience in anything that you enjoy, and I'm going to assume you enjoy comics, when you stumble across something that isn't just like, hey, that was fun, I got my $3.99's worth or whatever, and then you just move on. There's that experience, and then there's, oh, this thing is special. This thing is something I feel attached to now. This is something I feel like I want to be a fan of. And those are rare for me. In recent years, I would say Ultra Mega is the biggest thing that came across like that. If you don't know anything about that book, or you didn't listen, I did videos. You can just research Ultra Mega. I did videos. I don't know if that's a great book. This gave me that similar type of feeling. Now, some people might be looking at this book and going, those are cutesy anthropomorphic animals and stuff. That's not my thing, Ash. And I go, I get it. This is the argument that I make about Usagi Yojimbo all the time. One of my favorite comics. It's something that's one of the greatest comics. It's been over 35 years. Usagi Yojimbo is still going, and it's still one of the best comics back when it started. It was one of the best comics throughout the 90s, then the 2000s, and now the 2010s, and now we're in the 2020. That comic is brilliant, and it's brilliant in its simplicity, and it's just utter elegance, and just I don't know. It's just so perfectly simple. If you read Usagi Yojimbo, if you're a fan, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, but my point is, a lot of people won't even pick that book up because they look at it and go, "Oh, what this cartoony rabbit? That's not what I'm into," and they don't know. And so that's why I say sometimes you got to try and say, maybe it'll convince you. Maybe once you experience it. Now, this isn't the greatest book I've ever read by any means. Like I said, a lot of this is a subjective feeling to me when I read this book, and then when I reread it, it actually made a stronger appearance, which is only more credit to what it's doing. When you can read something a second time and it's even better the second time, I love it. And I'm so happy that I'm falling in love with this artist, because art is what makes, I think, a book have longevity. When I read a book with meh art and it's got a cool story, I enjoy it, but I don't attach myself to it. I don't feel like it matters as much. But when a book has great art, I don't know, there's just something about it. I can always come back to it, love the art. Even sometimes I don't necessarily want to maybe read the book again because the story's still fresh in my head, but I might just like thumb through it and spark those memories. I like everything that this book does. The character emotions that the artist is able to convey through facial expression. This story, this goes is Samurai Doggy. Let me rewind a little bit here. There's a cool sequence where the book kicks right in to when we see. Sorry, I'm stumbling. When we go through that flashback, Samurai Doggy's coming into the city and he's immediately confronted by some people, gets in a fight, and we don't understand what's going on. And I was reading this at the time and I was like, what the hell? Like, it's very chaotic. And I was like, and then we get to this panel here where it's like click, and then and it's like rewinding on the VCR for those of you old enough to remember VCRs. And it goes back, and he says, okay, I think I started off on the wrong foot. Let's recap a little. And I best about like clapped my hands out loud, and I was like, yes, like dang it, like it's almost like the artist and the writer knew exactly what I was going to be thinking when I got to this point. Was like, what the hell? Like, and there's like, yep, we gotcha. And it was a great, simple method for them to communicate to me, like, we're in control of the story. We know what we're telling. We know how it's affecting our audience. And we are competent pilots of this ship. So hang on for the ride. And I was like, cool. And that's what got me into it. And the next page you go, and this is all 2 hours ago we see. And so we're going to lead up to exactly where that fight scene started. Now it's gonna resonate. We're gonna understand why this matters, and this is where we get all the background, the story. And had you opened up this way, where instead of doing the flashback stuff, you might have been just boring the reader because I wouldn't care. As much as I talk about like how cool the scenery is and those world, but if I opened up, this is page 1, I'm like, okay, there's some weird fantasy city. There's a guy walking around. Da, da, da. You know what I'm saying? They do a writing concept here called in media res. I think that's what it is. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm pretty sure I got the Latin right. And what that basically means is you're starting in the middle of the story or hit the ground running. And the most famous story for this that most people all know is Star Wars. Star Wars opens up, boom. There's a ship running from another big ship, and the Empire's chasing down, and you're just like, what's going on? I don't know. You're in the middle of the story. It's an effective technique when done correctly, and this book I think uses it very well. So Samurai Doggy, the whole purpose here is he runs across this kid who just wants to ride a Ferris wheel. And there's a bunch of bullies, essentially. They don't call him bullies, I do, but he's like, oh man, you're just like the mutts of the clan. And that triggers Samurai Doggy to be like, what? Because he's like, I'm not going to help you. I don't care about you riding a stupid ride. And he's like, wait, what are you talking about, the mutts? What did you say? He's just like, #dead. Mutts like me. He's like, if you help me, I'll tell you. And he nails the childish nature of this kid, right? This kid feels like a little 8-year-old, and it's very whimsical and funny, and I just adore this. And he just wants to ride this Ferris wheel. And so Samurai Doggy's got his own agenda. He's going to take the kid to help out, help him out, but also get what he needs. Hopefully, it's going to lead him to his siblings. And the gang has taken over this Ferris wheel. It used to be free, but now they like charge people because it's like the old toll on the bridge. You pay us to ride, and so they confront Samurai Doggy eventually, and that's where the fight goes down. And it's a very simple story. It's not going to knock your socks off in like sophisticated plotting or whatever, but this is only the first chapter, right? This is just to kind of whet your palate to get you onto the ride, so to speak. And it completely won me over. Very again, look at this, very art driven. You can see that there's a lot of manga influences, which doesn't surprise me, being they're Hayao Miyazaki fans. And of course, manga is the biggest thing in comic book art these days anyway, or the comic book type medium. Manga just dwarfs everything else. So obviously that's going to have influences all over the world. These guys aren't American anyway. So to expect an American style comic book would be kind of silly. Not silly, but just, you get what I'm saying. So you can see here, but this is not necessarily, this is a book I think that will be appealing to manga fans as far as the way that it's structured and told. I think will resonate, but I don't think you need to be a manga fan either. I don't think you're going to go, oh, screw this. Try something new. I recommend absolutely seeing if it wets your whistle the way that it did mine. I'm floored by this book. The more I dive into it, the more, like, even just flipping through these pages again, talking to you guys, sometimes I'm stuttering because so many things are going through my mind, what I want to say to you, but also like how it's appealing to me. I can't, I'm over the moon with this book, and I just love when a book excites me that much. And I hope that one of the reasons I love doing videos like this is I want to express that and convey that. I want you to find books that make you feel the same way. Not just like, hey, that was a fun read or whatever, but that get you genuinely excited. If this is something you read and you liked it, tell me, please. I want to meet other people that appreciate the things that I love. Many of the things that I love today are these obscure indie books because the mainstream books are crapping the bed. It's easy to find mainstream fans. They're everywhere, right? It's like finding a movie fan that likes the MCU. They're all over the place. Trying to find someone who likes an indie film that I do or a foreign film, that's different. Same thing with comic books. This was a little, just as we wrap this up, I thought this was a really kind of a cool little not an Easter egg, but a cherry on top. If you are a person who's ever read fantasy books, Tolkien, etc., you'll know that one of the big tropes of fantasy books is always putting a map of your world in there. And this is kind of a map of wherever the Samurai Doggy world. And I don't know, it was just kind of cool when I turned to this. I was like, oh, hey, neat. I'm going to kind of... It kind of, what it does is it lets you look around and be like, ooh, these different parts. I wonder if they're going to explore those. That seems interesting. So I look forward. I cannot wait till the next book. I'm so happy I found this. I walked in thinking, I hope that I get like just a 3-star book that's kind of cute and fun and lets me enjoy a samurai dog character. I had no idea what to expect, and I walked out getting something that just blew me away, that I just absolutely love. I like I said, I want to go find other works of these creators now. And speaking of which, here they are. Thanks for watching this video. If you made it this far, please put down the comments that you did. It helps encourage me to know that someone's at least listening. I'm not just talking into the wind. You can follow me on Twitter, where I'm much more contentious and political, if you care about any of that sort of stuff. And if you don't, just be forewarned. Give me feedback down below. I don't think that I'm the greatest YouTuber on the planet, so if telling me I suck isn't going to be helpful. But if there's things that you like that I do, that I could do better or do more of to be better, or limit, just whatever, help shape me, these videos in the right direction, let me know. Because I don't want to put out a completely crap product. But this was so fun. Please let me know if this book isn't for you. If you read it and you're like, Ash, I didn't resonate with me like you did. But tell me the books that do. That's what I want. I want to find other great stuff out there. I don't mean like, hey, I had really fun with the new Batman book or whatever it was. I want to know, like, I love this, Ash. You don't understand. Like, if you don't have a book like that, think to yourself, is that maybe a problem? Is it maybe an issue that there's not one single book that you can speak to the way I'm speaking about this one? And maybe you're still looking for it. I don't know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.